Joining me now to discuss BTC price and other Bitcoin news is our weekend review panel. We've got CoinDesk research analyst Teddy Oostervan and managing editor of markets, Brett Cowan, both coming at us from Austin, Texas. Austin's the place to be. Hello, folks.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Great having you.
Hey, Teddy.
All right.
Hey, Brett.
So, let's take a look at the markets, Brad. A bit of a bounce, early in the week, but retreating again. We've had that 7.5% inflation annual increase reported in January. Also, the Bank of England reporting a $4 billion loss from quantitative easing. So what's behind this move lower, in your opinion? Oh, wait. Now we're seeing a modest bounce. Well, it's still trading pretty flat.
Well, you mentioned the inflation report that came out yesterday at 8:30 New York time, and the market's been a little up and down over the course of the past 36, 48 hours, but generally speaking, the inflation going a lot faster was definitely a wake-up call for the Fed and kind of for Wall Street too. Prices are really going up fast. Transitory is kind of a joke now, and all the big economic forecasters are really scrambling to adjust their forecasts. Goldman Sachs now predicting 7 rate hikes this year, Deutsche Bank 9, and some people are even saying there's a chance of an emergency rate hike before their next regularly scheduled March meeting. So, really that kind of thing, and just casts a pall over all of markets. Mm-hmm. It's just taking the punch bowl away sooner than we thought.
Mm-hmm. So, pardon me, I said that there was a bit of a bounce. There's a 0.8% bounce in the past hour, but over the past 24 hours, it's still down about 3.7% for Bitcoin. But you would have thought that if there was a, more inflation than expected, that there would be a bounce in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is said to be that hedge against inflation.
Well, this is the what I refer to as the topsy-turvy logic of global financial markets, which is, the opposite always happens because of the existence of the Federal Reserve, because they're the 800-pound gorilla. They have the printing press, so people just go from the report straight to what the Fed's going to do. So, when economy is doing great and GDP is doing huge, then people sell, because it just means the Fed's going to come in harder. And that's the same thing with the inflation report. Bitcoin's an inflation hedge, but it's also correlated with stocks and sometimes seen as a risk asset. And so, we know there's inflation. It's really a question of what the Fed's going to do.
What's also interesting is that there are a lot of news headlines that are tailwinds for Bitcoin. We've got KPMG Canada saying that they're adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet. BlackRock plans to introduce crypto trading. South Korea's sovereign wealth fund, $200 billion worth. They're planning to invest in the metaverse and AI, which is, not Bitcoin, but crypto adjacent. Teddy, you wrote about this. Tell us, what were some of your findings?
Yeah, so back in 2020, we saw MicroStrategy kind of be one of the first movers to actually put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And I think initially everyone thought that was just all these other corporations would pile on. And then we saw Tesla do it as well. And it really seemed like it was a trend that was going to get going. But then at some point, it kind of slowed down. That narrative died out. And then this past week seems like it's either happening slowly or the trend might be reemerging again.
Mm-hmm. I also saw MicroStrategy and Tesla, they booked some impairment charges this week.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of a funny just accounting metric where, let's say if they buy Bitcoin at 40,000, it dips down to 20,000, but then goes straight back to their buying price, they still have to impair basically half of whatever their cost was. So then even if it necessarily goes above their purchase price, they're up 100% at some point. They still have that impairment charge, and they can't ever book profit until they sell it. So on a financial statement, it would look great if they sold it up 100%. But if they think it might double or triple from there, it would be a bad decision financially, even though it looks great in the accounting metrics.
So did they have a net profit at the end of the year?
No, I think this canceled out their profit for this year.
Okay.
But yeah. But my piece, went into how they have been traditionally a profitable company, and they're operating, their operating profit is usually there. They have a business that is in line with what they want it to be. And this has just been kind of a way to hedge against inflation that has cut away at their cash that they've been holding on their balance sheet as well.
So is Bitcoin good for the corporate balance sheet or not so?
I think that depends on who you ask. I think a lot of people have very differing opinions. And when MicroStrategy first made the decision to actually put this Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they went to the investors and said, hey, we have a whole bunch of cash. We're sitting on it. Inflation and a booming S&P 500 is kind of cutting away at our purchasing power. We need to do something. So you can either basically redeem your shares for the cash we're holding, or you can stay on board and we're going to use the rest of that cash to buy Bitcoin. And that is our inflation hedge. So I think it's interesting. You could look at it whereas another way, maybe they should be paying dividends. But if the company isn't going to be able to survive high inflation and quantitative easing, they had to do something. And I think it's unique. They were one of the first ones to do it. Can't really say if it was a good or a bad thing for maybe another 5 or 10 years.
All right, let's look at some countries that have been talking about Bitcoin. Well, North Korea is stealing crypto to help fund its missile development program. We learned that according to the United Nations. They had a report out. Between 2020 and mid-2021, cyber attackers apparently stole more than $15 million worth of cryptocurrencies from at least 3 exchanges in North America, Europe, and Asia. And the estimate, nevertheless, is significantly lower than the $400 million identified by blockchain analytics firm Chainalysis in a report they had out in January, and it's also less than the 300 million found in last year's UN report. In other news, Russia, do we have more clarity on their positioning around crypto, Brad?
Well, the main story there was that the central bank of Russia was calling for a ban on crypto, and basically the government came out and said, no, we're not going to ban crypto, we're going to regulate it. I'm not an expert on the details, but that was definitely cited by a lot of analysts as a positive factor in the market. Or really, it was more like an absence of a negative. If they had banned it, it probably would have been a bigger deal, if they had gone forward. But it's a little similar to what we've been seeing with India, which is, there's the central bank's opinion, and there's the government's opinion, there's the bank's opinion, and their democracy, the policy making in Russia, maybe not quite as messy as it is here, because there's only one person who really matters in Russia. But, in India, there's lots of players, but you see these twists and turns of really big countries on crypto, and this is a new technology. It's threatening their financial systems. It's threatening global financial systems everywhere, and people are just trying to figure out what to do. But one of the things that's is sort of like a Tom Clancy novel is Putin is in the Olympics meeting with Xi, and China's rolling out the digital yuan, and at the same time, people are wondering if Russia's going to invade Ukraine, and if President Joe Biden's going to cut off Russia from the global financial system. And, maybe crypto plays a role somewhere in this. I mean, it can't not be in the discussions, but again, it's all speculative. Yeah. Maybe some of the stuff of conspiracy theories, but we'll see. I mean, there's lots of dots connecting, it seems like.
I'll say this, if anything proved that Bitcoin could be something helpful to governments, it was the Bitfinex, the money launderers who were discovered this week. A huge story. Everyone was Googling Bitfinex heist. And of course, law enforcement arrested a married couple connected to money and charged them with money laundering for the 2016 hack of Bitfinex and $120,000 BTC stolen now, worth about $4.5 billion. Ilya Dutch Liechtenstein and Heather Morgan were arrested for those charges. They are still in jail, apparently. And there's also some talk about how that might impact Bitcoin. We have a tweet out. This is by Kanav Karya. He is a president of Jump Crypto. He was saying that, attempting to get ahead of the fear, uncertainty, doubt, 0.8 times 3.6 billion over 18, that's 160 million worth of Bitcoin a month coming onto the market. That's not a lot relative to the market there. Also, and just what I was saying, the fact that law enforcement was able to track the Bitcoin to these money launderers, allegedly, that's a huge tool for law enforcement. So Brad, just wanted to get you to weigh in on that, on any impact on price and BTC at large.
Well, just as I was just looking at the overall market cap of Bitcoin, currently around $800 billion, which is obviously lower than it's been at, last November when we were at 69,000. Now we're, 40 and change, so about 2/3 of that, but, so it's 3.6 billion is not an insignificant sum. But this is all speculative. Like, is Bitfinex going to get the money back? What would they do with the Bitcoin when they got it? And it could take a long time. So, that's all speculation. But, broader points. Everybody loved this story because of Razzle Khan, the rapper.
Colorful
you can't make this up, And I was just, the Telegram added stickers, about Razzle Khan. It's definitely like it's one of the greatest cultural stories of crypto. But,
absolutely. Netflix has already announced that they're going to do a series on this couple. That's how fast,
so in that sense, it's just like free marketing for Bitcoin, but, it sort of cuts both ways. It shows that, if you think that all Bitcoin is just like, secretive money transfer corridors, no, the feds have figured out pretty good how to use their power of coercion with warrants and but also with blockchain analysis to track this stuff down. And but that sort of challenges the Bitcoin narrative. But maybe it's also might give some people more. There's a lot of people who don't think that money should be totally unmonitored, and so maybe that would give some kind of, not, Bitcoin maxis for sure, but maybe some people that would maybe give them more comfort that Bitcoin could be a real, payments network.